All right, back on the Young Turks. So we're going to save the rabbi for the second hour, as I told you in the beginning. But we are going to give you the two dirty pastors or weirdo pastors in this hour. So let's get to it. First one's about Ebola. Let me tell you who it is. Okay. We've got Pastor Ron Beatty in Berean Baptist Church in North Carolina. And he's going to somehow take the issue of gay marriage and connect it to Ebola, let alone all the other insane things that he says. Now, remember, Muslims are literalists of the Quran, and that's why they're very dangerous. And but Christians would do no such thing. Did I say that? All right, let's watch the pastor.
Isn't it amazing? For 150 plus years, we've had the laws and many of the same laws on the book, and all of a sudden we're supposed to have had a vision overnight at how dumb we were all of those years, and now the things that even put laws in place that said homosexuality is breaking the law is now putting so-called laws in place saying that it's okay, that it's a lifestyle that's acceptable in our society. Listen, we're not getting wiser. We're getting dumber. We're not getting smarter. My friend, we are meriting, we are bringing the judgment of God on this nation as sure as Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed. Don't be surprised at the plagues. Don't be surprised at the judgment of God. You think Ebola is bad now? Just wait. If it's not that, it's going to be something else. My friend, I want you to understand, you can't thumb your nose at God and God turn his head away without God getting your attention.
You can't thumb your nose at Allah by making drawings or saying something blasphemous without Allah getting your attention. Now, wait. If this guy is right and God is causing Ebola, or the wonderful Christian God, well, that's killed over 4,000 people in West Africa already. Has ISIS killed 4,000 people? I don't know. Maybe not. Probably not, right? So is a Christian God worse than ISIS? I'm here to ask questions. Look, I didn't say it. This dude said it, right? God apparently hates gays so much because it's in the book. It's in the book. It's in the Old Testament, okay? And that's part of the Bible, and he says that is literal word. Look, let's look at this guy a little bit more. I'll give you more quotes from his sermon there, and then you tell me if you can distinguish him from Muslim fundamentalists. He says, so the book of Revelation is about end times. Now, that's in the New Testament, by the way. End time events and what happens when this world is destroyed by fire. When the stars in the universe and the sun and the moon, like untimely figs cast from a tree, are just completely done away with and annihilated. By the way, this is what they're looking forward to. Oh, it's going to be great when you're all annihilated. But God loves me. He's going to suck me up into the sky. But you guys are going to have to deal with the figs that were cast from the tree. I think we're going to have bigger problems. It's so funny how they're all obsessed with figs. Do you know that there's a very legitimate possibility that the verse in the Quran was misinterpreted about the 72 virgins? Salman Rushdie gives a great speech about how it might actually, there's a real possibility that the correct translation of the Quran is that they would get 72 figs or dates when they got to heaven. Imagine the look on Muhammad Atta's face. 72 figs? You know why both the Christian and the Muslim fundamentalists are obsessed with things like figs? Because that's what they ate 2,000 years ago and 1,400 years ago in the desert where these religions came from. They're like, oh, a fig, that's awesome, man. Am I going to get one in heaven or am I not going to get one? Oh, if I like the gays, I'm not going to get figs. The figs are going to be cast from the tree. These people are lunatics. They're all lunatics. Fundamentalists from the same tree. They're just different branches of that same tree. Okay. Now, more from our good Christian pastor. He says they were doing something, referring to the homosexuals, that was not normal. They were doing something that was not natural. And as a result of that, like God judged this world with a flood, he judged Sodom and Gomorrah with fire. God loves fire and loves to kill people. That's what God loves. Okay. According to the literalist. He says, the most blasphemous thing I've heard in the 40 years of ministry, I heard on the news last night, where rogue judges have gone against the will of the ministry. Once again, you cannot find a better equivalent of Muslim fundamentalists. How dare the law go against the rules and the will of the ministry? When religion says something, no one is allowed to. You know, that sounds like Sharia law, because that's exactly what it is. That we must all follow the law of your particular religion. And how dare judges actually apply secular law when the God of 2,000 years ago, who, according to some people in some desert somewhere, told us that we should kill all the gays, stone them to death, by the way. That's also in the Bible. Okay? And that if we don't, we'll all be annihilated in the fires of hell that God sends our way. Finally, one more from Pastor Beatty. If you think for one skinny minute, God is going to stand idly by and allow this to go forward without repercussions, you better back up and rethink this situation. I want you to understand that is raw, pure blasphemy. I understand that Muslims are very concerned about blasphemy and that they might take action against you because of blasphemy. Here's this guy saying, no, my Christian God will murder you all for your blasphemy. Great. But it's, of course, Christianity is not the problem. Finally, this guy, of course, is an outcast among Christians, right? So there's no question. In the past, he's said that gay people, he compared them to murderers and maggots. Okay, how's that for terminology, right? Of course, I'm sure that the esteemed groups across the country that do represent a lot of Christians, like the Family Research Council, they're constantly on TV. They represent a lot of Christians. Their leader, Tony Perkins, has, I'm sure, already denounced and rejected this guy, right? I mean, all good Christians, why didn't you denounce this guy? Why haven't you denounced him? Well, if you haven't denounced him, then you agree with him, I guess, right? I don't know. It looks like there are no moderate Christians because they haven't denounced him. Well, Tony Perkins did you one better. He gave him an award. Let me tell you what the award is, and this is fun. It's it's the top pro-family award that they give. This guy's pro-family, okay? So here's what Tony Perkins said. This award is given to a pastor who has demonstrated outstanding servant leadership for the heart and soul of America, but more importantly for the advancement of God's kingdom. It's fitting we honor those who are faithfully working to engage our culture for Jesus Christ. Doesn't look like they denounced him. Turns out they gave him an award. It's just the Muslims, though. Okay, everybody remember that. Okay. What was that? Mother load of bad ideas, right? Okay, now we move forward. We'll give you one more, Pastor, because I'm sure he was an exception. Okay. Ernest Angley is a televangelist. He's been a televangelist for decades. He's got this church that a lot of people follow, unfortunately, and he's made a very good living for himself in Ohio. Now, he's facing a lot of charges that he might have actually touched children in the church, sexual abuse, among other charges. So how does he address those? Now, I'm going to give you his quotes, and you judge whether you think he's being honest when he says that he did not participate in any sexual abuse. Okay. He says, I'm not a homosexual. Well, that settles it, I guess. God wouldn't use a homosexual like he uses me. Interesting. He calls me his prophet, and indeed I am. They called Jesus a homosexual. Did you know that? And still do, because he was with men. Okay. Well, so far this is super weird. I don't know a lot of people calling Jesus a homosexual. And what do you mean he was with men? I mean, he ate dinner with them. He didn't have sex with them, as far as I know, right? And I didn't know that God had selected you as a prophet. But apparently that's what the snake oil you've been selling all these years. But so far, okay, standard cuckoo stuff. Here we go. Now on to the issue of what he did with boys. He says, I've helped so many of the boys down through the years. Now we're starting to get into some language about how he helps boys. Okay, well, still could have helped them in a positive way. Let's find out more. He said, the boys had their misgivings. Sure, I'd have them uncover themselves, but I did not handle them at all. Yeah. I mean, as I asked them to get naked, the young boys would have their misgivings, but I was just there to help them. Oh, I see, Pastor. Furthermore, he says, quote, and I would tell them how that would work, and they'd have to watch it. I'd have some of them come back to me that I felt needed to. And I would tell them, I would look at them, their privates, so I could tell how they were swelling. Okay, what? What do you mean inappropriate? What do you mean sexual abuse? I would strip them down naked and I would show them things and they would show me things and they would show me their swelling. They had misgivings, but I made them do it anyway. I don't see the problem. He says, none of us have kids Oh, I'm sorry, wait, hold on. That's moving on to the other heinous things that he did. Okay. So it's not just the child abuse that's at play here. He apparently, according to a lot of the parishioners, made them get vasectomies and abortions. He didn't want them having kids. Why? We'll tell you in a second. But let's go to some of those people who attended his church. Here's Becky Rodman. She finally came out. She's a former church member. She said, "None of us have kids because he makes all the men get fixed." Okay, just when you thought this guy couldn't get any worse. Becky Rodman, I should say, clarifies, "You're not allowed to have babies there." Okay, jeez, and why? All right, they're going to explain. Another former church member, Angelia Oborn, says she was 4 months pregnant, and she said she sat in the abortion clinic waiting room and told her baby that she was so sorry that she was doing this. "I know another girl, she won't come forward, but she was forced into having 4 abortions." My God, these are the people who are supposed to be pro-life. So what in the world's going on here? Are you ready for the reason why? Quote, "He doesn't want people to have kids because it would take their time and money away from the church." Damn. Just when you thought you'd seen real evil. I mean, look here, let's put up his pictures. If this isn't the face of evil, I don't know what is, right? You make people... We're pro-choice, man. This guy's anti-choice. He says you have to get the abortions. You have to get vasectomies because if you had kids, look at this guy. If you had kids, first of all, he might molest them. Second of all, that would take away money that you should be giving to me instead. Oh, there are people like this in the world, man. There are truly, truly dangerous people in the world. And a lot of them go around as religious leaders. When somebody tells you they're the prophet and they're the only person you should listen to, watch out. Run. Don't walk away from the person. Run away from the person. When you let go of reason and you hand over your rationality, your logic, and your reason to someone else, you're in for a world of trouble. Now, when they asked him, what happened when kids came forward with stories of abuse either from you or from others? He says, quote, he told them, they shouldn't talk about it, but they can do something about it, but they ought not to spread it abroad, you know, because that hurts others. After all the damage he's done to these kids and to these families, he turns around and says, you shouldn't talk about what kind of a bad guy I am and the bad guys that are in this church, because it would hurt others. After all the hurt he put on them. Do not put your faith in religious leaders when they tell you to let go of your reason. Because once you do that, you have no moorings. You have no way of discerning what is true and untrue. So then that's how they get you to do unspeakable things. All right. Now, that turned out to be a little depressing. Let's go on to, speaking of depressing stories, another one. Okay. But not about religion. Depressing for another reason. Great. Okay. Hold. Let me get this right. Okay. Wow, man, I always run out of time every day on this show. All right, here we go. Anita Sarkeesian was going to speak at Utah State University. She was going to talk about gaming and how females are represented in game. Now, a lot of people are mad at her in the gaming community. There's this Gamergate stuff going around. To me, this story isn't about that because it's about the threats that she got in this case and the reaction that the university had regarding those threats. Now, you don't like her, that's your issue, but you threaten her, that's all of our issue. That's a crime, okay? Or at least it is in most states. And so the gaming community, they get disparaged oftentimes, like, oh, you're all part of these people threatening her. Now, that's not true. My guess is this is a very small minority doing the threats of people like Sarkeesian, right? But then as they say to the Muslims, well, then you should disown that small minority, right? Now, I'm not going to blame every gamer. They don't need to come out and make a statement, I disown them. It's not their job, right? It's the same thing I say for when all Muslims get criticized. And so blaming all gamers is mental. That's of course not true. But the people who are doing these threats, well, that's super dangerous. And some of the threats against her and some other women writers or game developers have been so over the top, so stomach churning. Oh, we're going to come to your house. We know where it is. We're going to rape you. We're going to kill you, etc. They literally drive them from their homes. So that's something that is obviously hideous. If you can't see how that's hideous, there's something wrong with you. Okay. So now in this case, she's going to give a speech. You agree with the speech. You don't agree with the speech. That's irrelevant. You certainly don't threaten violence. But apparently someone did. Now, they said that they were going to do a Montreal massacre-style attack. Now, if you're not aware, in Montreal in 1989, 24-year-old Marc Lepine killed 14 women, injured 10 others, and injured 4 men as well. And he said, "You're all a bunch of feminists, and I hate feminists." So again, here we go again. It's because she's a feminist and she made some critiques. He disagrees with the critiques, so he's going to go to Montreal and kill everybody. If that wasn't clear enough, well, he wrote a letter in which he said, "I have at my disposal a semi-automatic rifle, multiple pistols, and a collection of pipe bombs. This will be the deadliest school shooting in American history, and I'm giving you a chance to stop it." And he's saying he's giving you a chance to stop it by saying she's not allowed to speak at the university. Now, of course, the university didn't do that, but I'll tell you what their reaction was in a second. He says, furthermore in his threats, even if they're able to stop me, there are plenty of feminists on campus who won't be able to defend themselves one way or another. I'm going to make sure they die. Now, on top of everything else, these threats are ironic because part of the reason that some people are angry at Sarkeesian is because they say her critique saying that there's sometimes misogyny in the games is wrong, so that's why we're going to kill her. That would actually seem to prove her point a little bit, right? She's worried about misogyny, and you say, how dare you say we're misogynistic, we're going to rip you to shreds. You see, that would be counterproductive to your argument, right? So now, this is terrible enough as it is, but I think the real interesting part of this story is the reaction of the university. So now, the good news is they said, look, we'll bring more cops and we'll bring bomb detectors. Okay, good. But she said, look, can you do like a metal detector to make sure they don't bring the guns into the speech? Because the one guy said he's going to bring the guns and do the worst massacre in campus history, right? For the whole country. They said, no. Utah is an open carry state and they can bring all the guns they like. But the guy just threatened the biggest massacre in American history, and he said, I'm going to shoot all the women. Yeah, no, open carry. Everybody bring their guns anyway. Afterwards, we'll hope for the best. Campus quote from the Standard Examiner, campus police told her that state law allowed anyone with a concealed firearm permit to bring their weapon to the event. So this story isn't about gaming, it isn't about Sarkeesian, this is about America. And we've gotten to a point where it doesn't matter. You can bring your guns, you got a permit, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the threats are. So what if it was a president? Whether it was President Bush, President Obama, it doesn't matter. So they say, okay, we're going to murder the president. We're going to murder everybody in the room. Would you just let them bring guns in? Yeah, oh, it's an open carry state. And if they have a concealed firearm permit, yeah, of course. Let's go, bring them all in. Do I have to explain that that's mental? Apparently I do. No, so she's not speaking. She's like, no. They're like, no, we refuse to do a metal detector. We refuse to stop people from bringing weapons to your speech. Well, bombs we have an issue with. Okay, but they can bring any other kind of gun. And it's okay, because I'm sure the good guy with a gun will stop the bad guy with a gun after he's murdered you. America has lost its mind. For people living in the U.S., you have no idea how the rest of the world sees us. We are now like viewed as lunatics. Like who would allow guns at a speech where somebody says, I'm going to use a gun to kill not just the speaker, but many people at the speech? We would, the United States of America. So she had to cancel the speech. I don't know what more to say other than this is insanity. So now everybody's going to bring guns to all these states that allow for it, to all the speeches. You disagree? Pull out a gun. God help us all. Too bad he's not there. So we're going to have to help ourselves, and I fear for our collective safety. All right, we'll be right back. That was a segment from hour one of the show.
Now for the better hour, the second hour.
Drums. You can get the whole show on TYT-network.com. All right, back on the Young Turks. Already we have tweets about Peter. Peter Hamby says, Cenk has now named me #NicePeter because apparently all Peters are Nice Peter now. But look, you'll like this one, Peter. Carly Megan says, you should call him Cute Peter.
Oh! He's all right.
All right.
Why am I being so mean to Peter today?
No. It's okay. You're not Nice Anna. He's Nice Peter. Okay. Can he get a mic in any way, shape, or form? Can the mic be swung in his direction? Okay. Because part of the reason I have to call him Nice Peter is because his last name is impronounceable. Okay, what's your last name, Peter?
Yanakiovi.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, well, come again?
Yanakiovi.
Yanakiovi.
That's
right?
That's Italian, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. See, lots of Italians. All right. Yeah, no one's ever going to say that, so good luck. Okay. All right. Travis Yan says, Cenk and Anna, if you're going to generalize and condemn all Orthodox Jews because of one scumbag, at least know your stuff. Okay. So, a couple of things. Number one.
Does the audience get mad when we make generalizations about religion?
That's
it's really
weird.
fucking weird.
Okay. Generalizing about Muslims, okay. Not about other religions, though. Interesting. Okay, now, first of all, did we say all Orthodox Jews are perverts who put cameras in showers? No, we didn't. We said that guy was a pervert, okay? Second of all, are we against all fundamentalists of all religions? Yes. Are Orthodox Jews somewhere in that gradation? Yes. I thought I made that clear, right? They're not all the way at the end, right? In terms of Judaism, there's far more fundamentalist strain than Orthodox Jews.
Yes.
Right? But so if you're an Orthodox Jew, we're not calling you a bad person. Just calm down, right? But I don't believe you should believe in any of the religions. So the closer you get to that end of the spectrum, the more I go, okay? So, I mean, I'm not even talking about the Lebovich guys or whatever, however you pronounce that with the funny hats. Okay, so don't get me started on that. Okay. And then Carl and Marston brings it back to where we're comfortable. I was simply agog after that last story. Okay, hold. Why agog? Synagogue. That's a man after my own heart. I like that. Okay.
And the live show is now turning into our production meetings.
All right, fun for everybody. All right, much love. We go forward.
All right. Restaurant workers are on strike in some of the major cities throughout the U.S., including New York, because they're concerned about the way they're treated by their employers and by their clients or customers. Now, the name of the protest is Not on the Menu, and these women, for the most part, are referring to the fact that they get sexually harassed while they're on the job, not just by their employers, but also by the people that they serve. Part of the reason why is because in the majority of states throughout the U.S., people get these so-called sub-minimum wages, okay? If they work in the restaurant industry, they could be earning as little as $2.13 an hour, which means that after taxes, they rely solely on tips. And so if you need to get a good tip, sometimes you're not going to speak up if a customer is harassing you, okay? So one woman who is part of this protest was complaining about it, and she said, look, I'm tired of wearing these outfits that are sexy. I'm tired of trying to flaunt my sexuality in order to get these tips. I'm not on the menu. Now, one woman also from the ROC United, she's the co-founder and co-director, I should say, kind of stated it in a very eloquent way. She says, when you're a woman living off tips, you are forced to tolerate whatever a customer might do to you, how they touch you, treat you, or talk to you, because the customer is always right, because the customer pays your income, not your employer.
See, I never really thought about it that way. And so that's a really interesting point. But it's not, so there's two elements here. It's the customers that you got to make sure that you ingratiate yourself to in every single instance. Yeah. And one of the other women said, look, sex sells. We know that, right? So you wear the cleavage stuff and then you're going to get paid more by your employers, which are the customers in this case,
exactly.
Right? And then there's the second half of the equation, which is the managers.
Right.
And the managers also push them to wear shorter skirts, more cleavage, etc. And it's not, when a waiter or waitress gets a tip, it's not just their tip. It goes to the busboys, it goes to a lot of other people, the bartender, etc., that work at the restaurant. That's why the manager also has an incentive, right? And so now when you get to some of the numbers that they state, really interesting.
Yeah, so this study actually came out fairly recently. I remember reading about it, and the numbers are jarring. 4 out of 5 female restaurant workers have experienced some form of sexual harassment by their customers or from their customers.
That's a big, I mean, that's a giant number. 80% saying that they've been sexually harassed by customers. I would have never imagined it was that high.
Yep. 2 in 3 experience sexual harassment from their management on a monthly basis.
That's insane. That's even crazier. 2 out of 3 managers or women have gotten sexual harassment from their managers. Like in another context, that would be unthinkable. Like, like if you're in a law firm or you're in a hospital or wherever you might be, and all the partners or managers are sexually harassing you on a monthly basis. 2 out of 3 of them, right? It'd be unbearable, it'd be unthinkable, etc. But you're a waitress, yeah, that's standard.
I know. So more than a third of all sexual harassment charges filed by women in the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission come from the restaurant industry.
So this is clearly a massive problem in this particular industry.
Right, and I think it has to do with A, the way the women are encouraged to dress in order to get bigger tips, and B, the fact that a lot of times the customer is very much aware that he or she is the person who is paying this individual's income, right?
So they have leverage.
They have leverage, some might take advantage of it, and it's depressing to say the least. Now, some of you might wonder, like, I don't know, this is based on self-reporting. How credible is this study? Do we really believe it? Well, we have a really interesting case study here in California. Now, a law recently passed in California that forced the restaurant industry to pay all of its waiters and waitresses and bartenders, anyone in the service industry, a minimum of $9 an hour.
Yep.
You know what happened to reports of sexual assault?
Harassment.
Or, I'm sorry, sexual harassment. They went down by 50%.
That is, look, that's jarring.
I know.
So is it definitive, 100% definitive? No. But is it excellent evidence that it turns out it's the tipping that's causing the problem? Yes. It is very, very good evidence.
And also, as a consumer, right, you should be annoyed that the burden is on you to pay for these people's jobs, right? Why should it be your burden? Shouldn't these employers pay a decent living wage to the people that are working for them?
Look, you know, I hate tipping to begin with because it creates an element of stress in the interaction that doesn't need to be there. Like, so when I go to buy sneakers or whatever else I'm buying, I don't have to think like, okay, how much should I tip the guy based on how much he helped me or not helped me? But when I go to a restaurant, every time, oh, should I give him 15%, 18%, 20%? Is he going to hate me? Was he good enough? Was he not good enough? Was he too rude? So I got to knock it down? I mean, why? Why are you putting that on me? I just came to get a meal, right?
Exactly, yeah.
But it turns out, no, for the waiters and waitresses, it's a million times worse. Apparently, specifically for the waitresses, in ways that I honestly never thought of before.
I know, it's crazy, and I hope that something changes soon. Now, I'm glad that it changed in California. I don't know if it's going to change in other states. I'm glad that these protests are taking place, but of course the National Restaurant Association, their response to this is that the studies are just an attempt to disparage the restaurant industry. That's their comeback. You're just trying to disparage us.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this news is disparaging. You're right.
Yeah, I like the idea that women who are working hard for a living and doing this made up all of this.
Yeah.
Even though they're in the industry and it pays their bills, right? They made it up just to disparage the industry. Yeah, amazing. That's likely. All right, now final story for you guys. Interesting one. It's about bulletproof vests. So there's a new group running ads in Florida specifically. They're dreamdefenders.org. They're trying to get African Americans to vote. They've got 10 different branches, mainly in college campuses. They recently did an IndieGoGo campaign, raised some money, $22,000 to run these ads. These ads are a little controversial. It's about violence that happens to African Americans and how you can change it by voting. But take a look at that.
Randy, did you study?
Yes.
You studied?
Yes, Mom.
You know, baby, I'm gonna need you to wear that vest today.
Mom, are you serious? I'm not gonna wear that vest.
I need to know when I'm at work that you're going to be safe. Do it for me.
All right, Mom, I'll do it for you.
An unarmed teenager shot dead on a Saturday afternoon. The FBI has questioned a man who says he recorded the audio of gunshots at the time Michael Brown was shot by Ferguson police.
Here in Oakland, Oscar Grant's death represents the very worst of gun violence and racism. His case may be over, but the problem is not. Today's Oscar Grant has a new name, Trayvon Martin.
So, of course, Trayvon Martin's shooting happened in Florida. They're running these ads in Florida. It's another progressive group running really aggressive campaigns. Seems like it's a little bit of a shift.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't seen anything aggressive from Democrats in over a decade, and all of a sudden, you've got a number of hard-hitting ads here, and this is another one. They're calling it Vest or Vote.
Right.
And if you didn't see it, one of the sentences in there in the ad was striking. Every 28 hours, an African-American is killed by a police officer, security guard, or vigilante.
Jesus.
Right? So what they're saying is, well, if you don't like that state of affairs, the best way to change it is by participating in the process and voting. So don't let it get so bad that you're going to put bulletproof vests on your kids. Go out there and vote and make a difference.
Yeah, I think it's a strong ad. I like the aggressive nature of it. It gave me goosebumps as I was watching it. But as someone who's, obviously very critical of all ads, regardless of political affiliation, I mean, is going out there and voting really going to make a big difference when it comes to that particular situation?
Well, like in Ferguson, it would have made a big difference. So it depends on the situation. So in Ferguson, you have a predominantly African-American community, significantly so, represented by almost all white government. Mm-hmm. And that's partly because the voting in Ferguson was really poor percentages, right? Like it was very low percentage voting and voter turnout, so it made a big difference if more African Americans turned out and they had better representation because they don't like what the police department is doing, they don't like what their government is doing. So then you could have changed that government in the case of Ferguson.
Yeah,
Right.
Actually, as you were answering it, I was answering in my own head as well. I mean, you have laws like Stand Your Ground. I mean, if you vote for the right representatives that aren't in favor of that type of law, then you're doing something that's going to help the situation. So
in the entire state of Florida, it's of course harder to sway than it is in the specific case of Ferguson, but it's worth the effort. Mm-hmm. And now, I think another criticism of the ad would be, my guess is the right wing would say that's fear-mongering, right?
There's definitely the fear-mongering.
Yeah, they're appealing to fear there. There's no question about that. The flip side is, I mean, the bulletproof vest is over the top, right?
Course.
Like, we get it. We're not blind. We see what's happening there. But they're saying, hey, listen, I'm worried about this issue. If I got black kids, I'm worried they're going to get shot like Trayvon Martin was, like Michael Brown was, like whoever it was, right? And I aim to do something about it. And if you don't like that, sad day for you. And what am I doing about it? I'm voting. The most American thing you can do.
Yeah, and look, you need that kind of imagery to drive the point home, and I think that they did a good job with that. It gave me goosebumps. That was a good ad.
All right, there you go. All right, now we're massively out of time. I'm sure that we'll have a fun and sexy story for you guys in the postgame, though we don't know what it is, but it's going to be all right. Here we go. Bye-bye.
You liked that, didn't you?
All right, if you want the whole show, you like it even more, go to TYTnetwork.com, go under member options, and you can get the whole show anytime you like.